Welcome to Oton, a town plagued by social issues and a lack of effective governance. But what happens when the authorities fail to address these problems and the residents are left to suffer? Let's take a closer look. Andres Bonifacio, a resident of Oton, was harassed by his neighbors for weeks. They would play loud music, fire air guns, and even throw rocks at his house. He was literally scared to death. The stress was so much that he suffered a heart attack. Andres' story is not an isolated incident. Many residents in Oton have fallen victim to harassment and abuse, with some even losing their lives. But why has the local government and barangay failed to address these issues? The Iloilo provincial government has made efforts to engage with local communities, but despite these efforts, the problems persist. What more can be done to address the root causes of these issues? The role of the police is also questionable. Have they been effective in protecting the residents and enforcing the law? The town has faced other challenges, such as the outbreak of African swine fever, which has had a devastating impact on the local pig farming industry. But how has the government responded to this crisis, and what measures have been put in place to prevent similar outbreaks in the future? The government's response has been slow and inadequate, leaving many residents feeling abandoned and helpless. Andres Bonifacio's plea is simple. He just wants to live in peace and quiet. He wants the authorities to take action and protect him and his fellow residents from harassment and abuse. Is that too much to ask? The story of Oton is a stark reminder of the consequences of ineffective governance and the importance of community engagement. But what can be done to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future? The answer lies in the hands of the local government, the barangay, and the residents themselves. However, the current administration seems to be a lost cause, as even the vice mayor has threatened to maul one of the anonymous complainants if he ever finds out his identity. It seems that the local officials are already under the control or influence of criminal gangs and influential criminal families in Oton. The town of Oton boasts about receiving a Good Governance Award, but it's nothing more than a superficial accolade. Behind the scenes, the reality is far from the truth. The award was likely the result of meticulous paperwork and clever presentation, rather than actual tangible improvements in the lives of its citizens. Despite the town's braggadocio, the streets of Oton remain plagued by widespread robberies, mugging, drug pushing, and house invasions. The lack of safety and security is palpable, and even the most basic institutions are not immune to the town's crime wave. Public elementary schools, once considered safe havens for children, have been breached by thieves who have stolen equipment and school items, leaving students and teachers vulnerable. The rot of corruption and graft is deeply entrenched in Oton's governance, and it's not hard to see why. The public bidding process is shrouded in secrecy, with friends and relatives of public officials mysteriously winning contracts and projects. This is a common modus operandi in the Philippines, where corruption is often facilitated by collusions between public officials and businessmen. The latter provides the former with kickbacks and other forms of compensation, while the former ensures that the latter receives lucrative contracts and favors. This quid pro quo arrangement allows both parties to line their pockets with public funds, while the citizens are left to suffer the consequences. In Oton, it's not uncommon to see public officials siding with criminals and shady businessmen. This is because the current administration is rotten to its core and has created an environment where rotten elements can thrive. Criminals, scammers, and sleazy businessmen are able to operate with impunity, knowing that they have the protection and backing of corrupt public officials. The town's governance has become a mere façade, a Potemkin village that hides the ugly reality of corruption and decay. The Good Governance Award is nothing more than a joke, a cruel mockery of the town's citizens who are forced to live in a state of constant fear and uncertainty. The lack of transparency and accountability in Oton's governance has created a culture of impunity, where public officials and their cronies can get away with anything. The town's citizens are left to pick up the pieces, struggling to make ends meet while their leaders line their pockets with ill-gotten gains. The situation is a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked corruption and the importance of good governance. Until the people of Oton demand real change and hold their leaders accountable, the town will continue to suffer under the weight of corruption and decay. The Good Governance Award will remain a hollow trophy, a symbol of the town's failed leadership and its inability to provide even the most basic services to its citizens. The widespread and prevalent occurrence of loud, eardrum-shattering loudspeaker music and karaoke in Oton is a symptom of the deeper problems that plague the town. It is a manifestation of the LGU's carelessness, dereliction of duty, and blatant disregard for upholding peace and order. The constant barrage of loud noise is not just a nuisance, but a form of auditory assault that has become normalized in the town. It is a clear indication that the LGU has failed to prioritize the well-being and safety of its constituents, instead allowing criminals and public nuisances to run amok. The LGU's focus on facades and appearances, politicking and self-enrichment has created a culture of hostility towards people who complain, whistleblow, or demand real change. Those who speak out against the noise pollution, crime, and corruption are often met with intimidation, harassment, and even violence. This has created a chilling effect, silencing many who would otherwise demand accountability from their leaders. The LGU's inaction and complicity in the face of these issues have emboldened criminals and public nuisances, who know that they can operate with impunity. The Oton LGU needs to be properly investigated, and the criminally connected officials need to be rooted out by the provincial government. The current state of affairs is unsustainable, and the people of Oton deserve better. As long as the public nuisances of Oton, such as sound systems, loudspeakers, and karaoke, continue to abuse and murder Ogtonkanans, peace and order can never be achieved. The very people responsible for this, including the mayor, vice mayor, town councilors, barangays, and police, are the ones who allow public nuisances and auditory rapists to continue victimizing and raping Ogtonkanans. It is a stark reality that the LGU has become a protector and enabler of criminals and public nuisances, rather than a guardian of the people's safety and well-being. The noise pollution, crime, and corruption have become so entrenched that it will take a concerted effort from the provincial government to root out the rot and restore order. The people of Oton deserve a government that prioritizes their safety, well-being, and quality of life, not one that prioritizes the interests of criminals and public nuisances. The investigation and reform of the Oton LGU is not just a matter of good governance, but a matter of human rights. The people of Oton have the right to live in a safe and peaceful environment, free from the constant barrage of loud noise and the fear of crime and violence. They have the right to demand accountability from their leaders and to have their voices heard. It is time for the provincial government to take action and restore the rule of law in Oton to protect the people from the very officials who are supposed to serve them.